parents, here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk for about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm going to introduce Coach Walsh. He'll talk a little bit of football for 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're going to ask all the parents to stay here. And I'll answer any specific questions you might have in regards to the trainer, contact information for us, and anything specific. And what the campers will do, they'll go on the field with the coaches, start to get stretched. We'll last up here for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll go down, and by the time we get down there, practice will have started. To start off with, my name is Artie Gigantino, and I work for Rick and Val Whittier, who own the camp. And our main office is in South Carolina, Myrtle Beach. And what Rick does and what I try to do is we try to get to almost every camp around the country during the summer, during these 8 weeks that we have the camps. We have 37 different camps, and just say hello to parents, not only at the opening ceremonies, but also at a different camp in the closing ceremonies, and answer any specific questions that you might have. Everything I've done in my football life has been associated with offense, defense. I started off here 30 years ago as a counselor, and through some of the connections that we're going to talk about, Coach Walsh and I, over the years, have coached at some pretty good places. I've coached at the Rams, USC, Cal, the Raiders, and previously, the last 5 years, I was an executive at the Raiders. And I can honestly say that to get to those places, it was because of the contacts, the coaching contacts, and some of the friendships and some of the networking that have taken place through offense, defense football camp. Now, we want to thank you for participating, not only the campers, but the parents in these tough economical times, participating in the camp. And there are some tremendous benefits you are going to see your camper benefit from during this next 5 days. We break it down into 2 areas. One is the obvious, the football. Hopefully he'll come out of this camp after 5 days of concentrated football teaching, technique teaching, fundamental teaching, a better football player. This is not a team camp. Okay, team camps are what you do later on in high school, where you get the whole high school team and you go to a campus and you compete against other teams. This is an individual and fundamental football camp. You will be repeating the same drills, the same technique learning, the same fundamental learning 100 times this week until you get better. Because we all know in football, the key to success and the key to getting better is repetition. So you will have a tremendous amount of repetition this week. You're on the field for 2.5 hours in the morning, 2.5 hours in the afternoon, and 2+ hours in the evening from 6:30 to 8:30. So there is a tremendous emphasis of being on the field, but the technique and fundamental teaching. The second part of this camp, and again, we've got some excellent coaches, especially Coach Walsh, that really qualify in this area. We teach life skills. It's not just about the football. It's about what happens off the field. We all know there are some idiots that are pro athletes these days that set horrible examples for our youth. But there's also a lot of really good ones. And there's a lot of really good coaches that set great examples. And we talk not only about academics to some of the older guys about recruiting, but how to act, how to prepare yourself physically and mentally for football, and also how to deal with all the things that come up, whether they be problems or issues in our life. It happens to us all. We look at this camp as twofold, like I said, football teaching and life skills teaching. Coach Walsh will spend maybe 15 to 20 minutes every day talking about a different subject. You know, this camp has had some great people come through it. And this is certainly not a commercial, but we all know guys like Ronnie Lott. We all know guys like Marcus Allen. Those guys were campers. Jake Long, the #1 draft choice a year ago by the Miami Dolphins, was a camper for 5 years from us. We have had an unbelievable amount of people that have come through this camp over the years as coaches and as campers. It's startling. We did a study this past year, and this is a tremendous statistic. There are 576 National Football League coaches that are on the 32 teams. 280 have either been a camper or a coach at this camp. That's more than half of the National Football League staffs around the country have participated one way or another in offense, defense football camp. This past year, we adjusted our coaching staff a little bit. We added, in 1 year, 500 years of National Football League coaching experience. Tom Walsh, who I'm going to introduce in a minute, coached for 16 years with the Oakland Raiders. But guys like Tom that we have added totaled 500 years of National Football League coaching that is new to our coaching staff this year. So in an attempt to make it the most positive and the best teaching environment for you campers and you parents to observe, we put our money where our mouth is by making this the best coaching staff in the country, and I think the 41 years of offense, defense being in existence will certainly back that up. I always like telling this story at orientation because I think it hits it on the nail about what I was saying. Back in, I think it was 1975, 76, I was coaching at USC at the time, and we were at the Riverside camp, and that camp had about 1,000 kids at it. The times were different. We had big camps and not a lot of them. But anyway, we're coaching the older kids one day in a scrimmage. It's a Friday afternoon, and we're coaching the #1 defense against the #1 offense. And there's a guy by the name of Tony Dungy who won a Super Bowl a couple years ago. We all know who he is. He's one of the great men in America. He was an assistant with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's coaching the secondary. I'm coaching the linebackers. And a guy by the name of George Seifert, who went on to win 2 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers, is coaching the defensive line. Now on the offensive side of the ball, there's a guy by the name of Mike Holmgren, who you all know from the Northwest up here. He's coaching the quarterbacks. He went on obviously with the Packers and the Seahawks up here and had a great coaching career. Then there's this little guy who was a real nervous, jittery guy who was coaching the running backs, a guy by the name of Mike Shanahan. He went on to win 2 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos. And then another guy by the name of Norv Turner was coaching the tight ends. So we had, in that group of coaches that day, we had 5 guys that went on to be National Football League head coaches, and 4 of them won Super Bowls. So that is the kind of quality that this camp has always had and hopefully will continue to have in the future. It gives me great pleasure today to introduce Tom Walsh as our head coach. Tom spent 16 years. He spanned 4 decades at the Oakland Raiders on 2 stints. He's won 2 Super Bowls. He's coached guys like Jim Plunkett, Marcus Allen, Kenny Stabler. Tom's been a college coach as well as an NFL coach. He was the head coach about 10 years ago at Idaho State. I think he's one of the finest minds in all of football today. And without further ado, Tom Walsh is our head coach this week.